Hey.
Hi. Hey. We're just going to sit here today.
What's up, Liz? You excited about today's episode?
I'm pretty excited about today's episode. I really feel like, for the topic we've been talking about in our podcast this month, this Tami Napolitano with Awesome Graphics and Freedom Solutions, she's like the model of how to delegate.
Yeah, how to delegate and not just lose your you-know-what.
I don't know why not delegating would make you lose your poop, but cool. Anyway,
not being overloaded, like learning the process of not being completely and totally crazy overloaded, and what that path looks like. And I think she's going to be great because she's done it.
She has, and she's dropped a lot of great nuggets in this episode. I'm so excited for everyone to hear them, and hopefully it'll kind of get you into that mindset of you don't have to be as stressed out to own a sign business as you are right now.
Or do it all.
Well, in order to not be stressed out, you can't do it all.
Exactly.
And I know we've said that so many times that you can't be everything to everyone all at once.
No. And we both learned that lesson the hard way. You probably better than me, but hey, here we are. But, Tami, I think it's going to be an awesome conversation with Tami. Awesome conversation. Awesome graphics. See what I did there?
Cannot today. So what we will do is thank our sponsors.
Yes, our sponsors. Of course, thank you so much to Inktavo. If you want to learn more about the Inktavo products, go to Inktavo.com. Inktavo brings you SignTracker, which you can also go to sign-tracker.com, a system for running your sign shop, managing your files, and doing your quoting. Again, sign-tracker.com. You can try it free for 14 days. And if you go to Inktavo.com, you can also link to SignTracker through there. Inktavo is Inktavo.com. They also have Graphics Flow, Printavo, and Inksoft. So some great products there. And if you're in the UK listening to this, they also have Clarity Go. So anyway, you can link to that through Inktavo.com. So I encourage you, and we're very thankful for them sponsoring us and our podcast. So
also super thankful for our friends at Sign Builder Illustrated. If you guys haven't already, be sure to read our article that comes out. We have a standing column in the magazine every month that Joe and I both contribute to. So if you, and it's always about the topic we're talking about in the same month. So, be sure to check that out. And then as always, I wouldn't do this if it weren't for y'all, because why would I add this to my plate? So
we love you guys at Behind the Signs.
Thanks so much for, liking and subscribing and sharing us with your friends and just taking a moment to listen to us talk some shit.
That's right. And that's a good point. We're thankful for the Facebook group, which is, I think, over 15,000 sign shops now, which is pretty awesome. But if you could go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that would be super helpful to us too. So it helps with the algorithms.
And also, I think this is the first official month, or maybe the second official month. You can find us on anywhere you stream your podcasts. So we are officially on Apple and Spotify.
That's right.
So if that's easier for you, you can like and subscribe there. And always, if you have a chance, leave a comment or a review. That helps us out tremendously. So
it does.
Without further ado,
let's get at it.
To why you're really here. Here's Tami. As all our listeners probably know by now, this podcast season has been all about the topics involved in kind of starting and owning your own sign business. This month specifically, we've been focusing a lot on the topic of working on your business as opposed to in your business, which is so important as a leader and an owner. And really, Tami, I'm just not sure there's a better example out there than the one that you've set for this. Like, not only did you start a great company, Awesome Graphics, but you grew it to multiple locations across different states. And you've somehow managed to build a system that allows you to manage this company completely remotely if you need to, or if you want to. You've done it so well, in fact, that you've even set up another company, Freedom Solutions, that goes around and consults other sign businesses on how to set up systems to allow them to get to this point. So that's amazing. I think that's the dream, right?
Thank you.
And so what was the moment for you that you decided you needed to transition from doing everything yourself, which keeps you working in the business, to delegating tasks, which kind of allows you to work on the business? And once you made that decision, like, what were those initial roles that you started delegating?
So the main decision and driving factor for me was having my first grandbaby coming into the world. And I know, like many other business owners, you just feel like if you leave, the place is going to fall apart, because especially when everything's in your head or everything is dependent on you. And it was such a huge pressure. And I just wanted freedom. I wanted the freedom to be able to be with my daughter for a month before she had her baby, and, just take the time to do things that I hadn't done for a long time. So that was really the pivotal moment for me. And then when I was introduced to having something like a real, CRM like SignTracker, implementing that was what gave me the ability to then start delegating, because it kind of showed me like, okay, it just clicked with my brain as far as systems and processes and how I didn't have any and how it was all just in my head. And so once I could see it differently, it was like, okay, what can I start training other people to do that I do now that's keeping me from what I really want to do, which is be free to work remotely.
And so what were some of those initial tasks or roles that you delegated?
The first one was workflow management, because I spent a lot of time just tracking every single job and trying to make sure everything was done for deadlines, making sure all the components, when you own a sign shop and there's multiple streams that you're doing, not just signage, but then business materials and apparel and promo. Like, there's so many moving parts and there's so much to manage. And so that was the first thing. The first thing was teaching somebody else how to look at all the jobs that were in-house and how to follow them and make sure they were going to get done on time. So I first started with that. And then I haven't stopped. Like, this is a continual, I still do it. I still am looking like, okay, what am I doing now that I could find somebody that knows how to do it better than me and hire out, or have staff do it that's currently with me, or maybe that means I need someone else to hire to be able to do that so that I can then take on something else. So I do it all the time. It doesn't really ever stop.
Spoken like a true business owner.
Liz, for you, I mean, for me, I there was a couple of moments where I came to that, the couple of times where I came to that aha moment in my life. And I'm an Italiano, right? So you are too. It's in Liz. I mean, we're control freaks. I mean, there's this it's built into our DNA. And so getting to that point where I had to get to that point a few times in building my janitorial company, but then my sign company, where I just said to myself, this is stupid. Like, I am just absolutely killing myself. And I need to make some changes. And project management, that was always the one that was the biggest challenge. I agree with you. I mean, and I look at the amount of effort that I put into training people over the years. And it seems like, as a sign shop owner, that was the one area that probably took most of my time. Right. Because other roles, especially as you're growing, you can shadow, hey, you're a new fabricator. You're going to shadow Bob for 2 weeks, or even sales. I mean, I started off in the sign industry doing sales. And so I basically had to shadow the salesperson for like a month. And we worked on joint projects together until finally I was able to go out and do it myself. And that's pretty much what we did at our shop too. But how about you, Liz? I mean, what do you think for you has been the biggest challenge as far as roles go, like letting go of roles?
I know we've talked about this so many times between you and I, and our own struggles with this. Even on our banter episode, we kind of talked about our struggles with this. But mine is anything financial, anything estimating and financial has been, for us, it's something I keep really close to the vest. It's just like, that's how we make our money. When you boil it all down, that's where it lies, right? And there are so many other things that make us more efficient and can help us make less mistakes and make us more money that way. But when you boil it down, estimating and job costing, and of course, all of the accounting, which I will not give up. But estimating, I have recently delegated, and we're still kind of working through that process of delegation for estimating. And it wasn't even, my idea. It was my project manager who came to me and was like, "Hey, I really want to try to do this." And I was
cool.
like, "Okay." Because, a lot of owners, they just kind of struggle with that letting go, the trust, right? So yeah.
And you can do it. You can do it in stages too. Like estimating is a really good example of that. I feel like a lot of sign shop owners, they definitely have a stranglehold on that. And for us, what we ended up doing was we did it where we finally hired an estimator.
I just did too, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, 3 months ago.
Ah, nice.
Full time.
Yeah, that's what we did too. Full time. Yep. We finally transitioned into it. We did it in stages. So we allowed the project managers to start pulling estimates together, and then we would review it and sign off on it before it went out. And then ultimately we get a full-time estimator. But even still, on the smaller projects, not so much, but on the bigger ones, my business partner and I still had to have the sign off before it went out. Are you doing that?
No, I haven't done any estimating except for down here in Florida. I do a lot of the estimating for here. Sometimes if my team in Vermont is too busy, but I hire, so my general manager and assistant manager are the ones that have done all the quoting. And then I have a vehicle department head that does quoting for vehicle. So I kind of have it spread out a little bit, by industry. And then they were so busy doing that it was like, I have to get somebody that's just going to do estimating. So he's been for the last 3 months shadowing and doing all the estimates, but then tasking in SignTracker, hey, sign off, depending on what it is. So if it's a vehicle related one, he'll have the vehicle manager sign off. If it's signage, he's going to go to my general manager. If it's something else that's outsourced, he's going to go to my system manager. So yeah, same kind of thing though, but it's been great having that, So I don't oversee any of that because my GM he's fantastic. And he just dove in so deep with me and learned so much that I had no problem just saying, I'm not a micromanager. I trust maybe too much sometimes, but I do. I trust him a lot. And he understands the business and he's got a mind for it. So I feel like he's almost better at estimating than I am because I used to get emotional before I had SignTracker. I used to emotionally quote like, "Oh, this person's so nice. I'm going to do," instead of being consistent.
That sounds like my dad. Yeah,
exactly.
Or the other side of that is, oh my God, if we don't get this job, I won't make payroll, So.
Exactly. Yeah. So you discount it when you don't need to. So he's much more by the book. So SignTracker for him has been great because once we plug in templates, that's all. I mean, he doesn't budge unless he really needs to, and then he will. He's good at it, but he's consistent.
Consultant side, right? So you have a unique perspective because you've lived the pain points, and then you're seeing the pain points, right? So, if I'm a sign shop owner, and you know how most sign shop owners tend to be, because all this industry is built on a lot of small mom and pop businesses. You walk in with 10 employees or under, and they're generally trying to do everything themselves, right? So what's the conversation look like when you first walk in as a consultant and say, "Listen, my friend, you got to start letting go a little bit," and that that internal anxiety about that? How do you sort of do you talk through that with them a little bit?
Yeah. I kind of explained how I started and how I started to do it. And I kind of go like baby steps because some people can't even fathom it. Like they're just like, "What do you eat?" And so I had one client recently that I was with, and, he was like, there's no way I can hire somebody. I'd have to teach him. It'd take me too long. And, so we circled around it a little bit. And then we finally came to the conclusion that maybe somebody in his family that he felt what he could work really well with could start taking some of his responsibilities. So it was like you find where they are willing to scale or go or let go, and then just work off of that. And so it's like a baby step. So if you can get him to at least delegate one thing and then see progress, then down the road, it's going to start getting easier, But I've had people that have been like, "I don't want to do any of it," And so, it's kind of bringing that balance in, So, yeah.
So that actually is a great segue into our next question, which is just like when you started delegating, or when you watched other people start delegating, right? We'll talk about your experience, but like, how did your role within your company change day to day? Like, how can people expect to see that change day to day? And what did you find yourself doing more of?
So I couldn't wait to kind of after, 25 years in business, I was kind of like, I cannot wait to get in and see things from a different perspective, because I couldn't see anything except the workflow, and the day-to-day stuff. So once I made those changes and started delegating, I definitely got more into business development and growth, like growing, geographically, but also services that we offered, adding complementary services to what we already did to really play off of our whole client base. So that's the kind of stuff that I do now and that I like doing a lot. And I can do, from here in a different state. So yeah, that's what I really enjoy. And that's, working on the business and trying to find ways to come up with new strategies, even with marketing or working with a marketing team, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That was actually one of the roles we delegated, not as quickly as we probably should have. And then it took us a while to find someone, but marketing, social media, like we have someone now who's just that alone, taking that off your plate and getting someone who knows how to do it. And we're pretty savvy, right? We're still relatively young for business owners in this industry. So we're pretty savvy on social media. I can't say I'm not the best, but my husband's pretty savvy at it. It's just that there's so much strategy behind it. It's a completely different way of thinking. And when you start getting people that know how to do these things in those roles, it's a game changer. It really is.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's definitely something for first quarter of this upcoming year that I'm going to be completely delegating, because I haven't yet. I've done little bits and I'm not consistent enough, and I do newsletters, but that's a whole thing I've been writing up and working on. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
That one, you're going to see a huge change. For us, it was consistency. The consistency that came with having someone in the role that knew what they were doing. I mean, all of a sudden we have monthly newsletters. All of a sudden we have updates to our website consistently. And then, multiple social media, not just posts, and then not just multiple, but they're all fairly uniform. Like our social medias, when you go to them, they look like they're very curated. But then we also very intentional. And we also use, the other tool stories and other tools that I don't even know about, but it's so consistent to still show our personalities, but then, have our very curated pages.
Did you go with an outside firm, or did you go with somebody internal?
No, we hired someone internal.
Internal. Okay. Very neat.
Yeah. And the reason for that for us was it was really important for us to feel that that's one role that my husband held and I did not. And he has a really hard time letting go of the voice of our brand. That's his background. His background's design and branding. And for him, that's something he really wanted to keep control of. So for us to go with an outside firm, he just didn't feel like he'd retain any control on that or be able to kind of train what he needed it to sound like. So yeah, we went with an internal and they worked very closely together. They still sometimes work a little too closely together. I'd like him to let go a little more, but he's done a lot better, and she's been with us. Oh, I know. And we've actually this is our third person in the role. So it was during the pandemic that we first noticed this was a role we needed, period. And that's, of course, because we had to focus our work and our day on working on the business and pivoting, as a lot of people did. So we needed someone on our team. So we actually had someone on our team who kind of developed this role for herself, because her role before the pandemic, when we were in office, was a little bit different. And I think she was seeing that it might have been a little bit obsolete when we were all of a sudden working remote. And so she developed this role of social media and marketing for herself. She didn't end up being as much of an expert in it as we needed. And she ended up leaving. And then the second person we had in the role, again, she actually ended up leaving to pursue musical theater, which we cannot compete with. But we always think the universe does what it's supposed to. And we have our current person in that role now who is just, it's as if she was meant to be here from day one. She's very good.
I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and I'm thinking, man alive, I gotta get my poop together with behind the signs, because really, like behind the signs, I'm going to start this Facebook page that encourages people to be nice to each other and encourage each other and have a knowledge, a place where they can exchange knowledge. And then I woke up one day and there was 15,000 people on it, and now I still am trying to figure out what to do with it. Other than just, but I do feel like I need to delegate. At this point, I need to really find someone and delegate some of the, not so much the responses. I enjoy doing that, but some of the consistency and the posting and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, okay, Liz, because I know I'm surely going to get us off track here again if we go down some rabbit hole. Are we gonna switch to systems and tools now? Are we switching to systems? Do I have your permission to switch to systems and tools?
We should, follow the outline.
All right. So as I started letting go of things at my company, it did, like you, allowed me to start working on systems, and ultimately the last few years when I owned my sign shop I was mostly focused on business development, sales, like relationships, but systems were an important thing. And, since I started in the sign business before electricity was invented, everything was like on basically Excel, right? Spreadsheets, and because there was no interwebs back then, where now everything is cloud-based. And if you're not there, you're hurting yourself. But so what are some of the, obviously we know, this isn't a commercial for SignTracker. So I know you're, a big support.
Help saying it. Cause it was a game changer, is a game changer still in my business. So I can't, I wouldn't be in Florida and be able to work from here if I didn't have it, but yeah, I understand.
What are the systems that you kind of started, working on and implementing, and how do you get a buy-in with your team on that?
Well, so with my team, I kind of started looking at everything as an organizational chart, where every position existed and what was needed to make every position work. And then kind of got feedback from the people that I had to see where they best fit in those positions, where to play on their strengths, and to their strengths. And then it gave me the opportunity to say, okay, here's the gaps. Here are the holes that aren't being filled currently. Who else do we need? And I think that SignTracker helped with that as well, just because as we created a flow for jobs and for production to happen, we kind of simultaneously, I was working on the systems of everything. So I hired a workflow coordinator, somebody who would schedule work the workflow only, eyes on every single job at all time, making sure things are getting done, but also help me to create those systems from the minute a job comes in, what it's supposed to do, when it gets greenlit, when it gets, so that everybody does it and everybody knows it. And so she came up with forms for everybody. So
to that is just, that's great, kind of talking about systems and what you did implement. But I think something that a lot of companies struggle with after they've come to the conclusion that they're letting go and they're setting up systems, how do you get people on board? I know even at ISA, I went to a talk, and that was one of the most asked questions. How do you get people on board, and how do you overcome that natural resistance to change, especially in an industry that's filled with, I know we've talked about this a lot because there's not really a path of formal education to this industry. People are taught it's tribal knowledge, right? It's passed down information, but with passed down information comes just, there are things that people do and they are set in their ways, and this is the way to do it. So how do you kind of change that mindset in your team?
Yeah, just before you say that, Tami, because one thing it's a sad smile actually, but because I do hear this when people sign up, and they're trying to get a system going, and one of the biggest reasons why they don't stick with it is that they'll say, "Oh, my employees just wouldn't use it," and then I think to myself, okay, wait a second here, you're the owner, you know what I mean?
That's a lot of work, right? You have to be consistent.
You have to be passionate about it. You have to be able to, just like your business. So if you're going to get people to be on board with your vision and carry out that vision, you have to give them the value of why this is going to work, not only for the company, but for them. Like, this is designed to make your job easier. It might seem like it's more work at first, but eventually it's going to take all the stress out of your brain trying to retain everything. And you running around and looking at 50 different sticky notes, and you're going to be able to just sit and look in one place and see everything. So it's almost like, I'm doing this, help me help you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing this for you. It's not just for the company, although it is also for the company, but it's also for the employees to have one central place to talk, one central place to see everything, and cut down the running back and forth, So, I think that, I'm not going to say it's perfect and that I haven't had resistance. I certainly have. However, I think that when developing it, it's whenever I feel like somebody's not doing something that they're supposed to do. I had that workflow coordinator who was fantastic, who I just replaced with somebody else because she moved, but she was great at just, I need a work order. And she wouldn't stop. She wouldn't let that job move until there was a work order. And the red flag would be on it as a hold, WO. So if I saw it for too long, then you better believe I'm going to be like, this job's not moving because we need to, so it's kind of like holding each other accountable that way. But I really think that letting people know why you're doing it and what it can benefit them. I have a quick story I'll tell you if it's okay, but I had a potential client that I was meeting with that we wanted to collaborate on some different things within our businesses. He owned his own 2 shops, and I own, So we were talking about some collaboration at one point. And I said, "Do you have anything that's running your shops right now? Like, do you have any kind of system in place?" And this guy ran ragged, successful shops, but he was in everything. He couldn't even speak on the phone because he'd be running to like install and then going to do that. And so I said, I could never do this with you if you don't have what I have in place. I just couldn't. I can't. Now that I've done it, I can't go back. It just wouldn't make sense to me. And so he's like, I don't see the value. So I had him come over, and I opened up my my office on my computer, my SignTracker, and showed him the 225 jobs that were going on between estimating to finishing. And he just stared at it, and I explained it to him. I explained to him, "Oh, what do you want? Where would you find this?" And he's like, "Well, I wouldn't even know where to look." Like with his jobs, fell off. But anyway, so when I showed him and I explained it to him, and I actually showed him my workflow and how I could do anything, he went like this. Like, he got it. He got the value, but he didn't understand it at first. He's like, I don't see what, that's more work, but then when you can, so it's the same thing with employees. That's my point, is that they can see the value and how it can save them time and a headache. I think that's how you can get them on board.
That's amazing. And so, in our company, something we've put so much work into, really above and beyond most anything else, is creating our specific company culture and making sure that it fits it fits where we want to be every day, right? Like, as an owner of a business, that's very important to us. But how did you create a company culture that encourages your team members to take that responsibility and ownership of their roles in the company?
I want to say I had some huge plan, but I really,
sometimes it just clicks, right?
Yeah, it hasn't. Okay. So, I've had a very core group of people that have been with me for quite a while, and like these last 3 years or so, we've had a lot of turnover, the most I've ever seen within my company. But this core group of people really understand where we're trying to go. And they have kind of that sense of culture. Like, we do a lot of things together. I've done like DISC assessments with my staff to learn about each other and about each other's strengths and weaknesses and how to get along and how to respect each other, even though we're different, like just trying to help them and give them tools to be able to relate. So I think that some of that helps too, just to kind of all be, that team oriented. I think when they feel like a team and they have the ability to kind of take what you give them and run with it. Like, I find that, at least like with my managers and everything, like even with the people that run departments, like if they feel like they have, not only have they been given their task to do, or they've been given their jobs to do, but they just take such pride and ownership. I don't really know how that's developed fully, except that I feel like everybody understands the vision, and it's kind of like a tight knit family. We've always kind of been like that. And I just think that that's how it's worked.
Yeah, I agree with that. For us, it's making sure that the vision was clear For us, we have a very clear motto, and we live by it. We eat, sleep, breathe by it, and we make sure that everyone's on board for it. It's not always easy, especially in a remote capacity, kind of maintaining that company culture, but it can be done as long as you're very clear about your vision. And then you already have a core team of people that are on board, right? Almost to a cult level. Like there are people that believe what you believe, and they're just like your general manager you were talking about. And having that helps you continue to build that culture.
Okay, so Tami, we're going to go back to the consulting hat for a second. So you're working with a brand new sign shop owner. Jobs are just starting to kind of come in. How would you talk to a sign shop owner that's new, or encourage some of the new folks that might be listening to this to think about working on the business and delegation rather than just being right? Because, bad habits start early.
I think that the first thing I would say, which one of my customers had told me back in 2017, is read the E-Myth book. That's the first thing I would say. And then I would say, decide what you want. If you want a job, then do everything yourself, and you can hire people to then help you do everything yourself. But decide what you really want. If you want a business and you want a company and you don't want to do everything, and you want it to run like that, then start at the beginning, setting up your organizational chart and your vision of how you want to see this. And then and create each department, each position, even if you fill your name in every single one of those squares because you're doing it all, start to separate it as if it was another person and start looking at it that way so you can see what areas you're going to have to fill, because one person, you just can't do it all yourself. I could never do this without my team, ever,
Yeah. Well, that's, and you're right. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with, there's nothing wrong with that. The technician, right? As the book says.
There's nothing wrong with it. If that's
what you want, you have a couple folks, you wrap a van and then you all go have a beer and call it a day.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's really identifying what you want. And that's why I try not to go in with what I want, and I try to hear what they want. What is it that you're trying to do? What's your goal? If your goal is to free yourself, or is your goal to just get more work,
Yeah.
So.
And the thing about an org chart too, it seems like that's a thing a big corporation does, but even it's not. And I know when I sold my company, that was one of the first things the prospective buyer wanted to look at, like what's your org chart. So I'll put this out there. If you are on Behind the Signs, go to the files section. There is a file there's a file section in the Behind the Signs Facebook group. We threw a bunch of stuff up there, but there's a really good org chart in there. And you just fill in the blanks. It's all set up, and it has different departments and roles within the sign industry. So obviously you have to tweak it to do what you do. But anyway, you can download that for free, everybody. So go there and either embrace it and start filling it out, or throw it away, whatever you want to do. But anyway, it's
Tami, it makes me feel pretty good that your advice is also the advice I gave in our banter episode about this same topic, and that is set up systems from the beginning. Even if it's just you, set up your roles. So if you're wearing 10 hats, when you get to the point where you can start taking them off, there's clear definition of what you're removing from your plate.
Yeah. And I wished I had done that early on, and I didn't. I can't say I didn't do everything right. I learned everything the hard way, but I learned it, We didn't have anyone to teach us, we had to just kind of figure it out. Yeah. That's something I'd love to see happen.
100% right from the beginning. I was lucky in that my business partner and husband, he worked at a very large corporation prior to us starting this company. My history is more in small business, obviously, with my dad, also my mom. And then even outside of them, I worked with I kind of focused, even after getting my accounting degree, my focus was small businesses. So I'd go in and work with them. And part of that is a lot of them don't have systems set up in place. But for Russell coming in, he had this, he worked for Dell. So he knew what systems were. He knew what they needed to, what needed to be defined and what didn't. And he sat me down at the beginning and said, I know we're going to be small starting off, but we need to run this like it's a corporation, and we need to have all of our systems set in place. So our online file system was immaculate. It still is to this day. And all of our roles were defined. And even if we were doing all of them, they were all defined. We also had a handbook very early on with and policies. And that, of course, allows you to do, again, work on the business a little bit faster. So we were able to do things like get benefits out to our employees, even though we're a small team. But because we have the structure behind it to be able to give us time to do that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds like you're doing a great job.
On paper. No, I think it's all right.
You're doing a great job. I can tell.
So once you kind of made that leap of working remote for a portion of the year, I know you're pretty remote for a significant portion of the year now, from what I've been told.
Yeah, all year. Yeah, I go back to Vermont. Well, 2 times this year I'll go back. I went back last year 4 times. It depends on the need and what we're doing and how many projects I'm taking on. But, but this year it'll be 2 times. And it's usually for like doing stuff with staff and connecting. And, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, the question is, once you made that leap and like for the first time you were like, I'm going to delegate, I'm working remote now, because even if you're delegating, but you're there, it's right. I could still be there to be called on, but now you're working remote, very remote from where you were. Did you ever have what we would call, for lack of a better term, an oh shit moment, like where you just like had to jump on a plane and second guessed everything you were doing and your strategy, and you were like, I got to go back?
Yes, I had probably 2 oh shit moments. I won't get into a lot of detail, but the first one was when I first moved here. I had sold my house in Vermont. I had a big apartment above work, that I built. So when I went back to Vermont, I'd have a place to stay. And then I got here and bought a house here. And my ex-husband then and I were kind of ready to start work on the business remotely together, and we got divorced right around COVID time. So that was an oh shit moment.
I never liked that guy. I'm gonna just throw that out there. I never liked that guy.
So Italian of you. It's the most Italian thing you could say.
Who, me or him?
Me.
Him.
Oh, you.
Him.
But I always say that when I know folks that got divorced, and the one that I like, I always say to the other one, man, I'm going to be honest, I never liked that guy. I have no idea who your ex-husband was. I've never met him. I'm sure he's
Well, anyway, no, I'm kidding. But anyway, that was an oh shit moment, because then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm in a new place. I don't know anybody. I'm running a business remotely. I felt completely, and it was very traumatic. So it was just a very tough time, but that's one of those times where I felt like my manager, he just stepped up, and I said, I'm a little fragile right now. I might need a minute. And he's like, I got you, so it was like, you see that like support and that collaboration. So I really, I can't say enough about my team, because that was a really tough time in my life, but they stood by me. They picked up the slack when they needed to. And, then I came back swinging. So, and then I joined a networking group here and I've been growing it down here, and it's been great. I've been doing installation. It's been fun, a lot of fun. Met a lot of nice people. So.
That's great. Do you actually have a physical location down in Florida now, or?
Not yet. No, I have, I'm part of like an 85 person BNI networking group. So I have, installers that are part of the UASG. They're 3M certified, like my shop is, that I use for installation. And, I do everything out of my house. So I just have stuff, but Vermont ships to me, like my office ships to me, and then we install down here. And so it's been great. Yeah, it's been really fun. I've been kind of doing all those little things again, but it's been fun.
Well, in all of this, building up your team and, having the different departments, and now that you're sort of able to kind of step back and look at everything, what's been, I would say, because you've shifted your focus now from the daily tasks to running the business and growing your leadership team. What's the favorite part? What's the most rewarding part of all that to you at this point?
The most rewarding,
besides the grandbaby, I know that's the most. Number 2. What's number 2?
Seeing family and travel is great. I will say with that, the less stress part, because even though I'm just as busy, the stress of it is less, because I can detach a little bit easier, which has been really good for me. But really, I think the most rewarding has been to watch my team and the people that have been with me for so long kind of really develop into the roles that I kind of knew were there. But, when you see things in people and you're like, I know you've got this, but they don't know it yet, and then you start to see them kind of step into that and learn the way you had to learn. And so seeing that And I just had this moment today where I was getting ready for this podcast, and I kind of texted my manager and just said, I just want to thank you, for, because I just felt like, it's so cool to see the growth he's handled, just everything, And so when you see people step in, and my assistant manager and all the guys that have been with me, they're just a great team. So that's been a really rewarding thing. And I really, it's been really cool.
Awesome. Well, that is good.
I'll just introduce the rapid fire questions. I think that's where we've
I forgot about those. Okay.
Yeah. So every guest, we ask the same 3 rapid fire questions.
I'm scared.
They're not bad.
Okay.
They're not bad. Dad, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. Okay, Tami, top lesson that you wished you hadn't learned the hard way.
Not taking it personal when staff leaves, and learning that that it happens. You know what I mean? And I'm finally at a point now where I get it, and it doesn't even bother me. It's like, okay, indeed, Dad, but not taking it so personal, like you failed somebody, or like because people need to move on when they move on, and it's not personal, it's business. So I wish I had learned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
would have been helpful to me, for sure.
The universe tells you things when you need to hear them, and I needed to hear that.
Oh, that's good.
That's one that I definitely still need to work on.
Yeah, because you take it like a personal failure or something, like, because I used to get devastated, like, you're upset or you're not happy, like, you know what I mean? But, you could do your best, but you can't make everybody happy, And so now I'm just like, if you aren't happy, I will give you the best review. You feel free to leave and do what it's a shift in thinking, and I finally have gotten there, but it took me a long time.
I think I've definitely had that for a lot of people when it's like a planned exit. We've had people leave for college, actually multiple people leave for new careers in college. But then there are some where they just kind of sneak attack you. And it's like, it's less, there's a little bit of heartbreak, but my stages of grief really hang in anger.
Yeah.
It's just the Italian in me, where it's like, oh, you're dead to me. I get it. It's fine. It's fine.
You skip the sadness and go straight.
Yeah.
I did raise her, Tami. This is
Joe, that's another conversation. No? Yeah. I'm kidding.
Okay. So the second question is what we call happy endings. So what's the happiest reaction to a project that you've ever had, or just a project so bad that you were happy it was over? You can choose which direction. It's a choose your own adventure question.
We had a project in Vermont recently that's coming to mind that we had lost a police officer. So it was a very sad thing. And it was right in front of our shop where she was in a high-speed chase, and she had passed, got into an accident. And anyway, my team, with my okay, but they took it on themselves to really help with graphics, where they did a whole park theme. They did benches in her honor, all this stuff. And so when I got to, and I encouraged them, I'm like, go for it. We'll sponsor it. We'll do whatever we got, whatever. But they really took it and ran with it. And when I saw the photos of them, with the governor there and all the people surrounding and being like that was just a really beautiful moment to see that, and to see them do it on their own accord and be so proud of doing it. That was really cool.
Yeah, that is good. Okay. If not the sign industry, what do you think you'd be doing?
Gosh, I'm a worker, so I know I'd be working. Probably I would want to do something. I don't know to what capacity, but if I didn't have to worry about work, or if I wasn't doing signage, I probably would be doing something to help with women's mental health or women's health, something along those lines. I'd love to do something. I don't know what exactly, but somehow, and travel more and, that kind of thing too, of course, selfishly. Of course. I've got a list of places I want to go.
I always say, if I never found the sign industry, which means he never found the sign industry, but if I never found the sign industry, I think maybe puppies would be involved. I don't know. Puppies. Dogs of some sort.
Yeah. I don't know. I started so young, and I worked for an eye doctor running his office for years before, but then I've been in this business since 20, since I was 20. So I don't even know what that's all I know. All I know is signs. No.
Elizabeth, I think you started hanging out at my sign shop when you were 10, right? Or 12-ish, right in there. So you pretty much almost all of your adult life.
Yeah. That's wild, though.
And teen life too.
That's so neat. My kids said that too. They were just telling me, my daughter was just reminding me how her and her brother used to hang out in the downstairs of one of our shops, and they would play with all the stuff and because we'd have to work late. And so they would be there hanging out. And she was just saying, I remember being there all the time. And I used to put them to work and pay them and stuff too sometimes. You guys want to trim? Yeah.
We tried to employ our daughter as an intern. This was over COVID. And she hated it. She was just like, absolutely not. This is not what I want to do. Like, if there's ever a child that will not get the sign industry gene, it's our daughter.
Oh, none of my kids did. They're all doing their own thing, and I think they saw how hard we worked, and they're like, they found it easier ways to work.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a labor.
It is a labor of love. It's a lot of work, but I think you've kind of cracked the nut. You figured out a way to not too many sign shop owners do, where they can, have a little bit of sanity in their lives, because it's chaotic. It can be a chaotic industry with not huge margins, tons of moving pieces, and to grow a profitable business. Things that are,
a lot. Yeah. Even just price increases that are happening, things like that, things that happen that are just, you got to be able to ride it out, and ride with it.
City permitting. I mean, it's everything. It's done. But anyway, well, Tami, it's always an absolute joy, and I will definitely ping you when we're down in Florida. We haven't bought our tickets yet, but it's going to be soon. So
yeah, please do. I would love to see you and your wife. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. So nice to meet you. Yeah, thanks for doing this